When we think about how companies traditionally communicate with customers, the key metric that they think about is exposures. So I call this exposure marketing. Exposure marketing is the idea that you want to expose as many people as possible to your advertising message, and typically all the measurement that we use is defined in terms of the number of exposures. It's about reach, it's about CPM, which is cost per 1,000 customers that you reach. But to me, there is a newer notion that actually shifts our perspective a little bit beyond exposure, and that is the concept of engagement marketing. Engagement marketing is the idea that we progressively involve customers in a dialogue, in a discussion, and a progressively deeper engagement with the product or the brand. It's a way to have a conversation with the brand. So engagement marketing really is not about selling, it's more about building a connection with the brand and relating the brand to the lives and the goals and the context of the customers. To give you a simple example, let's see what Nike is doing. So Nike traditionally has relied on media advertising, television, print in order to promote its idea of bringing out the athlete in you. But more recently, they've actually shifted their strategy quite a bit. They now talk about Nike's role as being advertising as a service that they provide. So increasingly, their advertising is going to take the form of workout advice, online communities around fitness. And one specific initiative that I think is very interesting is what they call Nike Plus. So Nike Plus is a website that actually allows you to become a better runner. So it allows you to get the best out of your running experience by creating a challenge for yourself, by connecting with friends in your area and building communities, by tracking your progress and setting goals for yourself. And they also have created a device that connects to that goes into your shoe, then communicates with your iPod and really tracks the calories you've consumed and how much you've run. So the notion here is that Nike becomes a sponsor or an enabler of your better running experience. So this is advertising as a service as opposed to advertising as interruption. So this is an idea of sort of how you begin to engage customers and to build a deeper connection with them. And it's an indirect sell, because what you're not doing is directly selling shoes or directly talking to them, but it's really trying to understand what are customers trying to achieve, what do they want to be able to do in their lives, and how does my brand fit into that conversation. So if you do engagement marketing well, it's really the notion of weaving your brand into the fabric of your customers' lives. It's really allowing them to enrich their lives and to have your brand or your product talked about in context. Let's take another example. A company like Microsoft traditionally has mostly talked about its products. And even today, if you think about the campaigns, they're talking about Windows, they're talking about Office. But a subsidiary of Microsoft in Canada has done something that is quite different and I think very interesting, and it's called the Microsoft Home Magazine. Now the Home Magazine, what's unique about it is that it doesn't talk about Microsoft products, but it talks about your activities. It talks about security in the home, it talks about arts and crafts, it talks about hobbies, it talks about memories. So for instance, if you think about memories, they have tips and articles and videos on how to get the most out of your pictures and your videos in your home. And through that conversation, they might tell you about the different Microsoft products and technologies, like their image maker, digital studio, or the movie maker might come into play. But the whole conversation is around activities and around goals and how technology fits into that. So you lead with customer goals and activities first, you follow with products. And that's a reversal in the notion that really the way we engage customers traditionally, we've talked about exposing them to products, but now it's engaging them in context. Now again, if you think about what digital technologies and networks make possible, this engagement has suddenly become more feasible. Think about how Nike could not have done what they do without the internet. So I think the internet offers a wonderful avenue for this progressively deeper engagement and having a meaningful connection with your brand. The challenge though with engagement is, how do we measure it? Exposures we know how to measure. Engagement, I believe, need to be thought about quite differently from exposure in terms of what it is and how we measure it. Because to me, exposure is about reach, engagement is about depth. It's not about breadth, it's about depth. Engagement is qualitative more than quantitative. Engagement is something that's not a transaction, it's a process. Engagement is something that involves active participation of a customer, as opposed to simply leaning back and being exposed to an advertising message. And engagement is ultimately, the goal of engagement is to create an emotional connection and to build your brand equity, as opposed to driving sales, which is what exposure marketing is traditionally about. So I believe that we need a set of measures that really follow a customer through this journey of greater and progressive involvement with a brand, leading up to intimacy and advocacy. So I believe that we will see the evolution of new measures for engagement, but I do think engagement marketing takes a very different view of how we connect with customers, and is potentially a great way to do engagement marketing is to leverage the possibilities that digital technologies and the internet allow you to.